Season 2 of Last of Us, adapting the game The Last of Us Part 2. Now, HBO sent me the entire season to review, but it also came with a bunch of caveats about what I'm allowed and not allowed to talk about. So I'm not going to go into spoilers on this, and I'm going to keep it very general, and I hope that game fans, or those who've actually played the second game, will forgive me for not telling you exactly what happens. You can probably already guess where the series is going. Now, to say that Part 2, when it first released 5 years ago, was divisive is putting it mildly. While many rightly praised it for its narrative bravery and bold structure, there was a certain amount of gamers who threw a tantrum because it refused to deliver the comforting power fantasy they were expecting. For me, the love affair is a mixed one. I've always wanted to like Part 2, and I've always loved the story, but I never enjoyed it as a game. On a purely mechanical level, it's a confused and contradictory experience that rewards violence and grotesque behavior even as the story and themes condemn it. Playing The Last of Us Part 2 is like having someone encourage you to misbehave only to instantly scold you for it. As an adaptation, Season 2 improves upon its source material in every conceivable way. In the place of immediate control, it gives us emotional interactivity, which proves a far better companion to the horrors ahead. We no longer have to consider our part in the action through limited gameplay. Instead, our part is to ask how we would react to the dilemmas presented in this tragedy. The resulting series provides a richer, more nuanced conversation on the nature of violence, protection, and the societal contract. And for my money, it's the best video game adaptation ever made, and then some. Story picks up 5 years later. Ellie and Joel have tried to move on from the fateful events of Salt Lake City, where Joel saved Ellie from a certain death, in doing so doomed any hope for humanity to develop a cure to the plague that nearly wiped out the planet. Even as Ellie demanded the truth from Joel, he chose to lie, partly to protect Ellie, but mostly to protect his relationship with his surrogate daughter. It was a selfish choice that most of us would probably make. And from the outset, it's clear that their relationship has broken down. Joel tries therapy with poor results, Ellie buries herself in work and violence, and in the middle of this are Joel's brother Tommy, who tries his best to help, as do Ellie's friends Jesse and Dina. What happens from here, I won't spoil. Fans of the game will kind of know where things are going, while other things will come as a surprise. As an adaptation, Season 2 is both extremely faithful, yet drastically different. And for me, it felt like experiencing the story all over again. If you're unaware of the original, or if you never played the games, Season 2 is gonna hit you like a ton of bricks. This is a rough, often unbearably grim depiction of the future. Whatever you thought about the first season, amplify that expectation for the second one by a dozen. Because by the time it ends, we've barely even scratched the surface of how bad things can get, and it is already extremely, extremely rough watching. But what really makes the series and the game so fascinating is that it's not really about the end of the world, it's more about how many times our subjective world can end before we reach the end of our rope. So for example, for Joel, his world ended when his daughter Sarah was killed, and then again when Tess died. So in his eyes, the act of saving Ellie was the same as saving the world, even if it doomed it for others. In this world, none of our heroes can look at the past to define anything because there's nothing left that could define or mark the past. Every single day is just survival, so you can't build upon it. So when Joel's past comes knocking, it doesn't come as a surprise that, he did something bad, but it does come as a surprise because we didn't expect anyone to care enough to chase him. Now, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are as superb as ever. Their easy chemistry works well even as they're pushing each other away, and we get a sense of how much they love each other and how much pain that love causes through acts of selfishness. Ramsey's desperation in particular to make things right proves most relatable, even when I couldn't agree with her method. Ellie as a character has always towed the line between heroic and animalistic, and it's here that the line blurs so thoroughly that it might not even exist anymore. Newcomer Caitlin Dever is equally impressive as Abby. Dever's part is really limited this season, but she makes the most of every minute, and I think that by the end, even the people who were kind of questioning that would she fit the huge figure that Abby looms over in the story, I think they're going to be convinced too. Now, this season is bigger than the first one in every way, and parts of it feel like they could do with an episode or two just so that it could breathe a little bit more. I watched the 7 episodes in about 2 days, and by the end I felt spent, breathless, and just plain worn out. And that's an intentional result, but it's not a series meant for binging, or I think even a weekly schedule can get a little rough. But it does accomplish something that most sequels don't. It expands the world in meaningful ways, and it gives us just enough answers to raise more questions. The emptiness feels lived in, and the characters we've only heard mentioned in the game get entire stories of their own. In particular, Jeffrey Wright as Isaac, whose character in the game was kind of an empty vessel, he gets a bulk of really smart additions that round out the thin character and make him just one of the most fascinating people in the show. Now, is this a fun series? No, absolutely not. I've already mentioned how rough it is, and there's multiple sequences that are going to spark disbelief and outrage, and some people are going to question why they're watching something that makes them feel this bad. But I would argue that the misery isn't without merit. This is not a series that exists to provoke for fun. Instead, it forces us to reflect on our base desires and our emotional reactions, and how quickly those can devour us and how hard it is to move on, even if it's the only road to survival. Now again, this is intentionally kind of vague and kind of all-encompassing simply because there are so many things in the second season that could be spoiled, and I don't want to spoil that for anybody. Is it a good season? Absolutely. It is way better than the first one, so if you like the first season, you're going to love the second one. And if you are on the fence, I think that you are going to enjoy this more after a number of years have passed from the game to this point. It is a really, really strongly directed and acted series, and Pedro Pascal in particular acts his heart out as Joel. He is remarkable. As always, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and thank you to all the readers and subscribers. I am entirely reader-funded, so thank you to everybody who has donated to the Ko-fi fund, who has clicked on these videos, who's commented. They really mean the world to me. If you want to have more thoughts on The Last of Us by the time the series ends, let me know. I'll happily do a more spoiler-filled discussion on that. But until then, see you in the next one.